Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept humble obeisances. Oh, glories, Srila Prabhupada, glories to you. I was wondering if you wanted me, I received your PowerPoint and I wanted to know if you wanted me to share it or I made you the co-host. You could share it as well, whatever your preference is.
You're muted.
Is it working now?
Hello?
Do you hear me? No, right?
Yes, I hear you now.
Okay. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisances. Oh, glories, Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Also,
I received your PowerPoint and I was just wondering if you wanted to share it yourself or if you wanted me to share it. Either way is fine.
I can share it.
Okay, I made you the co-host. So we'll start in just a minute. We'll just give everybody another minute just to be punctual.
Right down to the
Am I muted?
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Simply Wonderful Fridays. We're so thankful to have you all here with us. Just a few things before we begin. Our class will be recorded and posted to YouTube. So please, if anybody has any issue with that, please let us know. And please keep your microphones muted for the duration of the class. If you have any questions, you can wait till the questions and answer session at the end, or you can put your questions in the chat for Maharaj. So tonight we have His Holiness Hanumatpresaka Swami on Srimad Bhagavatam, the big picture introduction to the greatest world classic. Maharaj is the founder of the North American Institute of Oriental Studies and is a leading Gaudiya Vaishnava educator and spiritual master. As a member of the Bhakti-Vedanta Institute, he helped organize a symposiums for the World Congress for the Synthesis of Science and Religion and has developed curriculum for Bhakti Vaibhava, a systematic study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we will hear from Maharaj tonight. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Welcome.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Actually,
recording in progress.
Actually, can you hear me okay? How is our volume?
We can hear you well.
Okay. Actually, the North American Institute for Oriental and Classical Studies was started by myself, Tandavika Das, and Nitai Gaur Sungar Das. So it was actually three of us who started it. Okay, so I think now, let me see. So here we have Hanuman delivering the ring to Sita. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so I have a PowerPoint show, and I hope you can see it. Where is it here? Can you see our PowerPoint show?
Yes, Maharaj, we can see it.
What do you think of our elephant? You like our elephant?
So
nobody's answering. Everybody's asleep.
Very sweet.
All right, yes. So this is one of the participants in Simply Wonderful Friday. All week long, we're working in the hard arduous factories of the material industrialized society. And then Friday, we can go and have a nice cool bath and refresh ourselves on simply wonderful Friday. And we're understanding we're here, Neelamadhavadam, ISKCON Houston, and ourselves, we are the Anjana Suta Academy. And we started that a long time ago, I don't know, maybe like 1985 or something. And we have our webpage. We've been going along, we have publications, everything else. And of course, that's the esoteric aspect of our North American Institute for Oriental and Classical Studies, which is our exoteric. And of course, Anjana Suta Academy, more playful, creative. Okay, so this evening we were thinking about Srimad Bhagavatam, the big picture, the world classic, and this maybe setting the whole more global perspective, because we were told that Krishna House is starting there in our Neelamadhavadam. And so maybe you want a little perspective on proverb literature. So of course, this is Friday, August 27th. Okay, can you see the next slide now?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, so this is, it says Sanskrit. George L. Hart, he was a professor at the University of California, a very renowned, respected person. And he wrote a book called A Rapid Sanskrit Method. And it was published by Motilal Barnasidas in Delhi, 1989, which is a very respected publisher. And in the book he says, can you see the next slide?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. So in the preface to his book, he says, Sanskrit, is like Chinese, Arabic, Greek, and Latin, one of the few languages which has been a carrier of culture over a long period of time. Thus, the variety of writings in it and the quantity of those writings are staggering. An incomplete list of the subjects treated in Sanskrit, usually with great prolixity, is as follows: the four Vedas, the Brahmanas and Aranyakas, the Upanishads, grammar, epic Puranic literature, including 18 major Puranas, 18 minor Puranas, and hundreds of Stala Puranas. Works on medicine, logic, astronomy and astrology, mathematics, law books, architecture, music, etc. On most of these subjects, there is an immense literature still extant. Indeed, a rough estimate of the works which will be listed in the new Catalogus Catalogorum yields a total of about 160,000 works. So the Catalogus Catalogorum is a bibliography of all known ancient Sanskrit. Well, what does he say? You might say, it's a bibliography of ancient Sanskrit literature. Ancient Sanskrit literature that has been categorized. Where is it? What does it contain? Like that. And so it was a big effort, maybe starting maybe 30 years ago or something. And different universities are helping to maintain it. Our good friend, Professor Samaresh Bandyopadhyay from the University of Calcutta, head of the Department of Ancient Indian History and Culture, said that at Varanasi University alone, there are over 100,000 uncatalogued manuscripts, and they're trying their best to maintain them. Srila Prabhupada actually authorized and suggested a project called Project Matsya. He told the devotees they should go to all the different sampradayas and make copies of all their different books in their libraries, and then collect this for our library. So devotees like Bharutapa and others, they got a grant from the Smithsonian. And actually they did this. One devotee went and took microfiche copies. But as far as I know, they weren't able to maintain them. The copies got lost. But definitely this scholarly approach is something that Prabhupada appreciated and encouraged. So the ones that are cataloged by name, by everything else, over 160,000. Many so difficult that it would take years of study to properly understand them. Now, of course, the British, just like the colonial Spanish and colonial Portuguese and colonial French, everywhere they went, they tried to establish that European culture was civilized and everybody else was speaking street dog languages and had only civilized, undeveloped people. But here we see, he's pointing out in the very beginning, just to understand these things would take years of study. So it's all coming to light now. It's coming to light. We're appreciating there are many other cultures which are going to be very essential for us in making a better world. He goes on and says, Sanskrit does have its share of great writers. Kalidas ranks with the greatest poets. Panini is without question the greatest pre-modern grammarian. The Mahabharata ranks with the Iliad and the Odyssey. And here he says, and the Bhagavad Purana is among the finest works of devotion ever written, being equaled, in my opinion, only by other works in Indian languages. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the Srimad Bhagavatam. The books are the basis. You have the Book of Mormon, you have the Bible, we have the Quran, we have Euclid's Principles, we have Sir Isaac Newton's Principia Mathematica. And I think certain books are fundamental in developing what is culture, what is our understanding of the world, science. So our whole Hare Krishna movement is based upon Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srila Prabhupada is simply trying to give that, along with our whole history, our parampara from Lord Chaitanya coming down. So here we have broader perspective. It's not just a cult. This very, very eminent professor making this point. Okay, thing going on. Then some other people. I mentioned Professor Samaresh Bandopujaya. Here he is in the upper right-hand corner, and a close friend for many, many years. A very, very wonderful person, great intellectual, scholar, respected, but also a very, very nice person. Good appreciation, good qualities. So one time I was visiting him in his home in Lake Town in Calcutta. We were working on some projects, publishing some books. And he handed me a book. And it was by an atheist. An atheist. But it seemed like a very nice atheist. Yeah. But his idea was that the world had been created by evolution. Of course, that's an entire interesting topic. What is the origin of the species, the origin of the world, everything else? Very big topic, something that needs to be discussed. But even this person did not. Anadi, close your microphone.
Yes, it's a good idea. Carpool.
Anadi Radha, close your microphone. Yeah, thank you. You're very kind. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So even this atheist, nice atheist, who believed that everything came about by chance and natural selection, he was talking about how we developed from bacteria to one-celled animals or something on up to frogs and monkeys and then people and on and on. And then eventually, of course, we developed sociology and psychology. And finally, in his opinion, the highest product of evolution was the Srimad Bhagavatam. And there you go. Even an atheist who knows this literature knows it's just Srila Prabhupada's bringing this incredible treasure and making it available, which is practically speaking been very, very, very little appreciated in the West. joining this movement, if you're really going to join it, you have to appreciate you're getting into a very, very, very powerful tradition, powerful resources. You know? It may shock you with how much influence you start having once you appreciate this culture. So, okay, even somebody who's not even a theist is appreciating this literature. Then we come down here, we have a picture of our good Radhika Raman, Professor Ravi Gupta, also from Oxford. And now he's the head of the Department of History at the University of Utah, Logan, which is their biggest branch like that, and also in charge of some more comparative religions, like that. And of course, a very well published scholar internationally, so many things. It's a nice devotee. So he mentioned to us that when he was studying at Oxford for his doctorate, Oxford University brought, and I think the name is Narsingha Acharya Rao, and he was a very, very respected emeritus professor from University of Madras. And he was supposed to teach, I think maybe for 3 weeks, he was giving a seminar on the Srimad Bhagavatam. And maybe Radhika and 6 more graduate students, they were doing their reading, studying. And at the end, then they would submit a paper on that. And that's how they would learn. It was a very nice way. Different authorities coming and giving seminar and the students learning and then submitting a paper. So anyway, Professor Gupta, Radhika Raman, told me that one day after the class was over, Professor Narsingha Rao, maybe 80 years old, he said, "Oh, Ravi, please stay for a moment. I know you're a part of this ISKCON movement, Bhakti-Yoga Swami. And I just wanted to tell you that I've read all the major Sanskrit literature and most of the minor things also." And Professor Rao said, and I'm not being arrogant or proud or anything, I've been doing this for over 60 years. And so, it would be embarrassing if I hadn't read them. And he said that it says that amongst all the Vedic literatures, the Puranas, you've heard about them before, these great historical philosophical works, thousands of years old. The Puranas, it says, are like stars in the sky. They're so brilliant, so beautiful, until the moon of Srimad Bhagavatam comes up. So Professor Rao is making this comment, and he says, Ravi, it's not an exaggeration. He says, for the beauty of the poetry, for the sophistication of the grammar, and for the depth of the philosophy, he said, Srimad Bhagavatam is in a class by itself. Prabhupada said, the duty of the spiritual master is to teach Srimad Bhagavatam to the disciples. So all of us, every single one of us here today, we have to all become spiritual masters on the order of Lord Chaitanya. And then taking so many people as our students and teaching them. Yes, somebody may be Diksha Guru, formally initiating. Somebody may be somebody else training us in deity worship. But all of us have to become Shiksha Gurus. We have to hear something. And of course, the basis is Srimad Bhagavatam. And then it's a wonderful, wonderful adventure. It's a wonderful process, learning these things, as poetry, as art, as music, as intellectual, practices. And our own humble selves, we've been bumbling along and trying to accomplish something, with maybe less sincerity than anybody else here. Prabhupada told me that everybody else here is more sincere than me. I would say, okay. It doesn't mean I don't have any sincerity, but not much. I'm trying. So our result, actually, just even a few weeks ago, we're based in Nashville, been locked down here, kind of, but we took a 3-week tour. Just got back a few days ago to Boise, Idaho. Yeah. And we told everybody, we're not coming to San Francisco, we're not coming to Seattle, we're not coming to any place. If you want to see us, you got to come and see us here. And quite a few people came. It was a very good strategy and visited. And of course, that enhanced the whole local programs. And it was so intense. But for 1 week, Professor Ravi Gupta was there at the beginning, before his school year started. And we were talking to all these people on the telephone. And finally, we got a hold of Shonu Shamdashan. after 6 years of trying, 6 years. Yeah. And he's not a, he's a you know, what's the world class scholar, player, everything else. He came from Indian family, I think a Sindhi family in Singapore, I think. And he was doing the same thing many people. Many young people are looking for spirituality and everything else, higher consciousness. And he couldn't find anything really. And then he found Carl Jung. Carl Jung. And Prabhupada says amongst all the Western philosophers, Carl Jung had the most sense. And so then he started going into his work and researching it. And he took his doctorate, I think, from London, University of London, which is, I think, it's the oldest university in England, I think. Somewhere there, maybe Oxford, Cambridge, are all the same connected. They're connected together. So University of London, College of Medicine, and the Department of the History of Medicine in German. And that's when he really started doing all the works of other people of translating Carl Jung's works into modern perspective. And they started the Philemon Foundation. And it's just what Prabhupada said, you know, amongst all the different communities of people, science is a philosophy of nature. Science is based upon very specific, you know, philosophical concepts and principles. You know? It's a whole separate discussion. So, you know, amongst all these different philosophies, you know, Kant, Christianity, Martin Luther, Calvin, Prophet Muhammad, scientific materialism, so many people. You know, what's the name? Whitehead from Harvard, and Bertrand Russell. So many people. They're trying to figure out what is this world and give us some perspective. You know, and the common people, of course, are just subjected to what the media gives them in terms of perspectives. So this Jungian community is still very active, still resources, money, big programs, and so many young people joining, you know, finding some great satisfaction here. And so that's what our specific effort is. And as it's evolving, we've done 2 programs with Chaitanya Charan's Monks podcast. One was Hamlet and Arjuna, which is an area we've also been developing, world classical literature. And the second one then was science, psyche, and spirituality. Science, psyche, and spirituality. The encounter of Carl Gustav Jung with the Bhakti-Siddhanta, of classical India. And we're learning a lot. We're refining. Things are improving because Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada's guru, was born in 1875. Okay, and Carl Gustav Jung was born in 1876. Oh, Jung called these things, what do you call it? Not coincidences. That's what they call it. He has a word for it. Yeah. But they sing. Oh, look at that. So that these things are happening, and he didn't take it by chance. He took it. There are things in this world which happen like that, which we should look at, which is being controlled by forces behind the gross level. So Jung, of course, was passing to the subconscious, and so many things that we describe in our literature, he was actually experiencing these things to our perspective. So Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati, his life, we have such great resources on how he grew up, what was happening. Bhakti Vikash Maharaj has given us a tremendous biographical resources to be investigated. The Bhaktivedanta Research Center, the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies, all ISKCON resources. So Bhakti-Siddhanta was the example of how we became industrialized. Yeah. And then we have from Carl Jung's side, Bhakti-Siddhanta, how we became industrialized in the East, and then how we became industrialized in the West. Yeah. And that's really the big problem, you know, in industrialization. We can define it as expert expert production at a point, concentrated point, for mass distribution at a distance. Some people become very expert in manufacturing Adidas tennis shoes. Oh my God, Adidas tennis shoes. Oh, yes, 45 different layers and rubber from Borneo. Okay, and they manufacture them one place and they distribute them at a distance, and everybody's wearing Adidas tennis shoes in every village. But also, of course, we're manufacturing ways of thinking. Now we're getting software, computer software, machines, and distributing to everybody how to look at the world, how to think. I was discussing this with people, and we're also realizing that we're also the same thing. It's the industrialization of happiness, the industrialization of feelings, of emotions. And so we're developing all these movies and everything else, which stimulate us and train us and guide us how to experience different sentiments. For example, conjugal love, male and female love is something that's being promoted by Walt Disney and everything else from 5 years old. Little 5-year-old children are having conjugal sentiments. But what to speak about, motherly love or parental affection or affection for siblings? Well, it's being mass produced by certain people, controlled by the military-industrial complex, as President Eisenhower explained. So very, very important thing to look at the world and see what people actually need at the current moment. And then what we're developing, of course, people can talk about it more here, is very much trying to focus on this area of Shonu Shamdashini, the Philemon Foundation. And he wants very, very much to meet again with us and have a nice interview, recorded interview and everything else on this. And so he pointed out some more literature to us, some recent things just published. I'll just mention that Carl Jung gave a series of lectures right before World War II at something like the Caltech, of India, still the most powerful technical university. And they reconstructed these things. Impossible. How did they do it? There's such incredible historians. They found shorthand notes that people had taken. And so I've started to read those now. And yes, it's if you want to understand the people on the other side of the river and their perspective, these things are incredible. And as they're saying, I just started reading, these things are more appropriate to people in the modern world than they were at that time. You can appreciate more what Jung was experiencing and talking about. Just a little bit what we're doing. And of course, the whole thing, again, is based upon the Bhakti Vedanta Library. We'll kind of finish here and see if anybody has any questions or comments. So the Bhakti Vedanta Library. Can you see our slide here?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. So the first thing, of course, is our whole culture. What we're talking about is the Vedas and the Upanishads. We're Vedantas. We're following Vedic literature, and this is called Shruti, that which is heard, and this is considered to have been heard directly from God, just like God gave the 10 Commandments on the tablets, wrote it with his own hand. God dictated the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad. Yes. And Buddha himself. Oh yeah. So there's one class of literature which is talking about how these things are coming from a direct source, Shruti, which is heard directly. And you might add, and some people only accept Shruti. If we're going to be talking to a wide range of people, they won't accept the other literature which is produced by the sages based on Shruti. Their meditations, their Smaranam, their Smriti, what they thought about it, how they put it into modern things like the Mahabharata, the Ramayana. These are all, and even the Puranas are also considered Smriti. So do we have anything in the Bhaktivedanta library which is Shruti? Yes. Isa Upanishad. It's a part of the Yajur Veda. There are 4 Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Atharva, and Samhita. 4 Samhitas. And every single Veda has a series of what Professor Hart said earlier, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads associated with it. So the Upanishad, which we have from Prabhupada, very, very fundamental, very, very logical, is based upon the Yajurveda. And we can study these things very nicely. Very happy, a lot of fun. It's happening. Okay. Then after that, there is what is called sometimes the Gita Upanishad. And of course, Prabhupada gave us the translation. The Gita was very, very, sophisticated, big translations. So we have from Prabhupada is actually the Bhagavad Gita as it is, which is much bigger than the Bhagavad Gita and much more profound. But it produces the Bhagavad Gita in a fundamental aspect. And Bhagavad Gita is considered by all people following, the Vedas and everything else. Prabhupada said every Indian accepts Bhagavad Gita. And one sannyasi said, well, Prabhupada, what if they don't accept Bhagavad Gita? And Prabhupada said, then they go to hell. Okay. So Bhagavad Gita we have from Prabhupada, and it's all over the place. You can talk to so many people and on the basis of Bhagavad Gita, and they'll appreciate it. Then we have the heart. The heart. See our little heart there. The heart of the Bhakti-Vedanta library, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita are like the ABC. And then once you get that, of course, you can start appreciating all the literature, the text, the poetry, the music in Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's the heart. And studying that, Prabhupada gave a whole systematic way to do it. Approaching devotees. So many devotees now are very educated in the Bhagavatam. Then we have Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is basically a Srimad Bhagavatam class. Lord Chaitanya is showing us, by his own personal example and everything else, his preaching, how to appreciate Srimad Bhagavatam. 17 volumes. Then we have Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, 2 or 3 volumes, which of course is the 10th canto. And Prabhupada says it's complete in itself. That's the pastime of Krishna. If you're reading the Krishna book, Lord Chaitanya will come and listen with you. He'll come and hear you reading it. Okay. Then we have Light of the Bhagavat, which is a very excellent book. It's one chapter from the Krishna book. And we're using that all the time as an outreach tool because Prabhupada took that chapter and he gave us suggestions about how to use it, preaching to the cultural aspect, cultural environment. It was designed for a conference in Japan on cultivation of the human spirit. So we buy those by the case. And what else do we have? We have the life and teachings of Lord Chaitanya. This is not available in English, but it's part of the introduction. In Spanish, they make it a separate little book. And of course, you can do that. You can go to database.io and you can take it out and print it up and distribute it. It's very, very wonderful little biography. Oh, I know about Aravinda. I know about Martin Luther. I know about, who's your Lord Chaitanya? You can read this in one evening. Beautiful little biography of Lord Chaitanya. And of course, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Prabhupada was not going to do this Srimad Bhagavatam, 17 volumes. So he extracted out 5 dialogues and put them into one book. And, all Gaudiya Vaishnava people say, oh, such an excellent extract. And by itself, you have to read it separately. So for academics and professors, we also love this because it's not 5,000 years old with 20-mile long witches, but it's only 500 years old. And it can be divided into these 5 little sections like that. So it's a very, very excellent book. We also buy it by the case, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And we have the Nectar of Devotion, the complete science of Bhakti-Yoga. This is the opus magnus of Rupa Goswami. And all over the world, it describes how developing spiritual life from the do's and the don'ts, getting free from smoking and drinking, and whatever, all these things, all the way up to the most esoteric sentiments. In Christianity, these are called, to our understanding, beatific states of consciousness. To us, it's like bhava, sattvika bhava. And this is the natural development of spiritual life, whether you're Russian Orthodox or Santa Teresa of Avila. In their descriptions, in their literature, and in their community, yes, they're going through these things. And when we have interfaith dialogues with very, very powerful Jesuit people and stuff, it's very, they're very challenging. They're very sincere. But they're also appreciating, okay, let's talk. We have some things that are useful to us, and please take advantage of our love of God. So Nectar of Devotion is a summary of everything. Of course, we also study this in our literature. And Nectar of Instruction, that's Prabhupada said it's the first book. The first book. And it's like a summary. In 11 verses, Rupa Goswami gives summary of everything. Of course, we're publishing. Pretty soon we should have out our own little commentary on it, perspectives on it. But it's so intense, so wonderful. Your whole life, you can simply go on, taking that as the basis, and from that, growing your development and your study of the whole Bhakti-Vedanta library. So, of course, we distribute that. Okay. Then we have, what else? Can't read this here. It's been covered by the robot. Yeah. We have, what is it? Letters from Prabhupada, a whole section of books of letters, lectures on Srimad Bhagavatam, room conversations. So all together, one time we did this in the West. Sometimes people have these in our industrialized countries. So in their houses. So we did a home program one time. We start putting all the books out there, like we're doing now, and explaining them, stacking them up, and 35 volumes of what do you call it? Room conversation, lectures, letters, everything else, morning walks, and all the books. And finally, I said, I always remember this. I said, and some people say Srila Prabhupada didn't give you everything. And then one new boy there, he said, thank God. So this is it. From Prabhupada's books, he indicates so much other reading. And this is going to take what? Nobody can take everything the spiritual master is offering. But we should get a little sample of everything and then find what we should know. Basically, 2 mantras are enough. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Hari Gaura Bhaktivedanta. And follow it with Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And you achieve the perfection of life. But if you want to preach, Prabhupada said you should probably read my books, and also to accelerate the process. Just a little this is my presentation for today. Here's a picture of us. We went to Russia, chanting our Gayatri. So thank you very much. We're on Hanumatpresaka Swami. Here's our webpage. And so it's a little effort to maybe even introduce people and also maybe other people to refresh them on what is the Bhagavad Purana, what is our literature, what is the basis of this whole culture and our whole movement. So, koi prashna hai, hay unas preguntas o comentarios in our chat. What is there in the chat? Okay. Sudevi Sundari Das says super cute. She likes our elephant. Okay. And then Anadi Radha begs forgiveness for having the microphone. Don't worry. Yeah. We're so happy to have you here. Leave it open the whole time. Dr. Jason says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please have my humble obeisances. Okay. Sugopi Palika, synchronicity. Yes. Sugopi is studying at Yale University for her master's degree and her doctorate. And we've been encouraging her to study history. It's a very, very good subject for girls. Study history. And you can get a master's degree. It's all you need. Doctorate, I don't think is necessary. Maybe a couple of master's degrees. Because then you can start publishing your own books and everything else, and you can teach any place like that. Take some temporary contracts. But you don't have to make a career out of it. You can have a family, you can teach, publish books, and make wonderful contribution. Should have thought with you. So, Winston, Dr. Jason, down here. Okay, this Holiness Hanumatpresaka Swami, our webpage, yeah. So anybody else has any comments or questions? Prabhupada says, unless you have questions, you're happy in this nasty place.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Sundar Gopal Das here. Pleasure to see you.
Oh, it is good to hear your voice. I'll go to Houston right after Radhastami. We'll be there for almost 2 weeks.
It will be very nice. Look forward to that visit, Maharaj.
Okay.
A quick question. So you mentioned that Nectar of Devotion is kind of a summary of all these other literatures, and so Nectar of Instruction is summary of Nectar of Devotion, or what is the place of? So can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, yes. A couple of times I've seen Prabhupada saying wonderful books, Rupa Goswami, Upadeshamrita, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and then Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava. So it's one line. Yeah, Upadeshamrita is a summary of everything. It starts off in the most simple things like sense control. Don't smoke, don't drink, get up early in the morning. And this is, of course, very universal. But then it goes through different processes there, different perspectives, on up to Radhakund, the most esoteric ideas of religious consciousness that we have to offer. So basically, yeah, and you can see, I think there are very nice parallels, with the development of Nectar of Devotion. So, yeah, obviously, it's a very, very nice summary. And Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is a complete science. And Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava are two examples there. Rupa Goswami shows us in these dramas all the pathos and humor and everything else.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. It's very enlivening to hear your voice.
Pleasure to hear you and see you.
Of course, that's what the wolf told Red Riding Hood also. What big eyes you have.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I had a question about here's my doubt, is that this is a 5,000-year-old text. It's been passed down through teacher to student. And how can we be certain that the Sanskrit writings have not been altered and are just as they were written by Srila Vyasadeva?
It's a nice, very nice perspective. One thing, of course, we're trained in this industrialized world in a certain, philosophy of nature. There are philosophies of ethics, philosophies of aesthetics, and philosophies of nature. So science is a philosophy of nature. And of course, it's extremely based upon mathematics. And mathematics is a somewhat a loosely defined field. But you go to mathematics and you'll find Euclid's principles are so central. The ideas of Euclidean geometry and everything else. And if you deny science access to Euclid's principles, you're going to 95% of everything we have is going to disappear. Of course, there are other mathematics beyond that, practically speaking. So anyway, science is a way of looking at things. And one of the things it says is that time is isomorphic and things have been going on just the same way now as they have in the past. But this is ridiculous to me to make some declaration like this. It's a very big topic. But basically, we're saying, hey, there's room to accept that time moves at different paces and different ways, and space is different. If I stick a ruler into a bucket of water, it appears that it shifts to one side, right? Oh, it appears that it's being cut right at the surface. Yeah, so you don't know how far away the stars are, the time, even carbon dating. There are many difficulties. So these are questions, like you're saying, valid questions. And Bhagavad Gita 4:34, the purport, Prabhupada says that blind faith is condemned. We're no way on that. We're asking that. We're simply asking people that if you come to a certain level of realization, whatever, okay, then you take first initiation, you matriculate into the school. And then we're promising if you stick with it and follow this process, you'll get your diploma, you'll become Uttamadhikari. But if it's not happening, you're not obliged to continue. The contract is not for blind faith. The contract is basically first initiation, you're giving up artificial doubts. You're not bringing artificial doubts into the thing to avoid surrendering. No, if we can supply you the information, everything else, then you're going to honestly accept it and consider and go ahead. You're not going to waste our time, once you come into the school. So one of the principal things we differ is that it's kind of an isomorphic view of time in science. What we're saying is everything is going through cycles. Your heart's going through cycles, your stomach's going through cycles, the days are going through cycles. Even the earth, when it rotates, is spinning like a top. You know, so the position of the pole star changes, I think it's like 17,000 years or something. You know? And this matches up with Vedic astrology, which is supposed to be created by primitive savages. But no, you start discovering Sadaputa, other people, they looked at this and adjudicated, wow, it's just incredible, impossible, you know, for people who didn't have higher access to higher intelligence and higher resources about astronomy and everything else, architecture, so many things. Okay, so we're saying that when this was produced, it was the fall season. Now we're in the winter season. You go to New York in the winter, there's no people, no fruits, no flowers, no squirrels, no frisbee, no, everything is covered. People are covered, you know, it's just, you know, so some cockroach, you may think this is all there is, but they look at the cockroach Bible, the cockroach Puranas, it says, you know, a few months ago there were flowers and fruits and trees and everything else. Yeah, okay. So yeah, everything is changing. So 5,000 years ago was the end of the age of bronze, and everything was finer. Methuselah was living for 1,000 years, and everybody else was living for 1,000 years. Yeah. That's one of the first points to consider. You know, that this literature in the first case was oral, and people remembered everything they heard and everything else. Their minds and everything else much finer. Space was much more accommodating. But when Dvaipanyaya Vedavyas saw the Kali Yuga was coming, the winter's coming, got to store up some wood, got to store up some, you know, some canned goods. He divided Veda, which was oral, was one thing, described everything, which is the word Vyasa. The word Vyasa means to divide. So he divided it into these 4 branches and put it in such a way that people could understand it and everything else. Okay, now is it coming down? The first thing is that some of the literature, right in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, says this, right in the first canto, first chapter, it says, hey, you know, we're not talking about these scientific mantras which are being passed down like computer programs. I mean, you just start changing a few parts of Microsoft Word, it doesn't work. You know? Yeah, it has to be precise, every syllable. But even that, there are systems. One guy was sitting in Sri Lanka some time ago, and he said every 7 years, all the different monasteries with their different traditions and branches, whatever, they all got together at one place for some big, you know, religious, spiritual, cultural festival. And they chanted the Diamond Sutra of Buddha days, the Diamond Sutra. And all of them accepted that. You know, they have their interpretations on the basic sutras. But they all chanted it together. They all know it. So when they're chanting, he said it was like, you know, it was 10,000 monks chanting this thing together. It was just awesome, you know. And he suddenly realized the chance of 10,000 monks all making the same mistake at the same time was impossible. Yeah. But whereas simultaneously, and I've seen this, somebody prints up, you know, 10,000 copies of a certain book and they make some mistake, and oh yeah, those 10,000 copies go out, and that mistake becomes a part of the culture. So right away we have literary tradition and we have oral traditions. In South India, there are still families. It's become a heritage of UNESCO. UNESCO declared it a human heritage, you know, human heritage. And they learned to chant the original Vedas one direction. Then they learned to chant them backwards. Then they learned to chant like every 3rd syllable. Of course, it's a Czech bit if you know computers. And so again, it's guaranteed that the actual content of those particular mantras is precisely being passed down. And they can go through their heritage. I know one devotee, Rasaraj, he can go 32 generations, you know, for his family like that. But to speak of even more, going back. These are there. So this is one perspective on it. But our real concern here is this. This is different. Because the Puranas and everything else are not communicating are concerned with communicating an exact, you know, computer language transmission. They respect that. Later on, maybe we can use these things. At the end of the first canto, the sages are asking Suta Goswami, please tell us, what is the essence of all Dharma, all these kind of things that we need to know to become happy, to understand, to reach Krishna, to understand the cause of all causes, to know him directly. And Suta Goswami says it's Srimad Bhagavatam. And I heard it when Sukadeva Goswami spoke it to Maharaj Pariksit. Yataditam yatamati. I shall now try to make you understand it as I understood it. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to communicate an attitude, a perspective. On that basis, we think about things. This is where Carl Jung starts to kick in. This buddhi, attitude, perspective. And when you have that attitude, perspective, then you put it into linear thought, all these kind of things. But that's not real knowledge. Big scientists will agree that the linear stuff is how you apply it in the gross world. But behind that, the whole idea is they come in a moment. And the perspectives are there, which manifests in so many scientific laws. That's our point. And you see in the transmission, you see the story of Sukadeva Goswami, Prabhupada. They consider the audience and they add in a few more stories. They add in a few more things like that. And then the questions are asked until finally there's the aha experience. Aha, yeah, I got it. Oh. And so we're trying to basically, this is right in the beginning of Nectar of Instruction, we're trying to communicate a perspective, an attitude, a buddhi. This is what Krishna is trying to communicate. And once you have that, then on the basis of that, you can develop different, rational thought, this kind of things. And I can go on about this for a long time with Nobel laureates and everything else. But that's the basic point, is that Bhaktisiddhanta understood it. Gaura Babaji understood it. And coming down like that. And so when you're hearing from Prabhupada, and everybody in ISKCON has to have a direct experience of Prabhupada. It can be through so many transparent via media, but if you're a member of ISKCON, you should be feeling a direct connection to the Prabhupada. He knows what I'm doing, I know what he's doing. Okay, but I'm in my position, and Prabhupada knows that, and he's there. And then you're experiencing, okay, Prabhupada, do you really know this? Is this really Krishna? And you get the experience so profoundly that there's no possibility of intellectual, doubt, because it goes beyond the intellect. It's a direct experience of Krishna. And then you see how he's manifested in the world, every place, everything else. Okay, then eventually you're dancing with Krishna. Well, Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu. Okay, you have to go higher like that. So is that a good perspective?
That's fantastic, Maharaj.
So you understood.
I'm glad this is recorded so I can hear your answer again.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you. I'll see you now. You're in Texas?
Yeah.
You look familiar.
I'll see you soon if you're coming to Houston.
That's what the wolf told Red Riding Hood. Wow. Bhagavan Naradadas.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, my obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I have a very general question. All of these scriptures are very overwhelming, it's a lot to digest, obviously, but I need some practical advice as far as, what's the best way to share this information with college students in a digestible way, in a timely way that they can understand, that's relevant and relatable to them these days? Like, what do you feel the best approach would be without overwhelming it? Or should we just give them the Maha Mantra and Japa and Kirtan first, or just Prasadam? I mean, what's the balance between these things that we can offer them, and how can we make it, successful for them and give them that taste?
One thing is that that's the whole point. I'm a person, you're a person, Krishna's a person, and all these college students are people. Sometimes I forgot that one. And Seshadas said, Hanuman Swami, they are people. Oh yeah, I forgot. They're not like statistics or college students. And so the main thing. Again, what kind of boy? I always give this quote. I like this quote. Clint Eastwood, right?
Yeah. Dirty
Okay.
Harry.
Yeah. So he said, what did he say? He said, one movie, I forgot what it was, Joshi Wade or something. He said, I don't talk much, but when I talk, my pistol speaks for me. So that's not a recommended successful form of preaching on campuses, like that. But other places, yeah. I mean, in certain situations, you draw your gun and point it at the guy and say, hey, look, read this book and start applying it to your followers, and I'm going to come back with my army in a few weeks and see if you've done some of that. Well, okay, I'll look at it. And yeah, so there different kinds of, that's Hansaduta told us that Prabhupada said every single psychological circumstance you can encounter, you'll find in Srimad Bhagavatam. So take all the stories to heart, chant Hare Krishna, associate with devotees, and then the base thing is to make friendship with people. That's the first principle, is you say hello to them. And I have my perspective on this. Chandika Pandit says, victory comes from good advice, and good advice comes from many counselors. So I'm one guy here, talk to a lot of people. Every salesman has his own technique. So you got to develop your own way of preaching. And I know some people, I always mention my friend Lokanath, his wife Maharani. She didn't know the difference between an atom and a molecule, I don't think, but she was a really good cook. It's like nice, very satisfying. So she would cook for many of the programs, and then immediately, it's not Nobel laureates. They would just surrender and accept her opinion on the books just after they had her cooking sometime. And she would say, well, I don't know, but the books are just as good. Give me a couple, And so she was preaching to Nobel laureates on the basis of her cooking. That is an appreciation of Krishna. General formula that Prabhupada gave for the academic atmosphere of the students was, first thing, nice reception, right? They gotta look at you and how you're dressed and how you appreciate them. And of course, it always happens. The same way on the street, you say, hey, brother, how's it going? It's like you appreciate it. You gotta have a proper reception. Lord Chaitanya, when he gave a proper reception to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, right? He listened for 7 days. And I've done this sometimes years, listening to people and actually understanding what they're saying. And then finally they say, well, what's your opinion? And you say, well, now that you asked. And then Lord Chaitanya wasn't crude or anything, but he didn't deviate because you asked. Okay, I'll tell you my opinion. And the same way with Prakashananda Saraswati. Lord Chaitanya took a position which matched their consciousness, and then he showed his effulgence. You're going to have all devotees have nice effulgence and nice smile. I think it'll be nice kirtan. Prabhupada said those three things: nice smile, smile, nice kirtan, and nice effulgence. And Prabhupada should take advantage of it. Prabhupada said the pure devotee makes so many followers by his smile. There it is. You're being friendly, being a nice person. You're happy. And so they're listening. So first thing is a nice reception. One very, very successful program in the university is prasadam distribution. And sometimes it'll take an entire year of prasadam distribution, and people should pay for it. Every day, every week, once a month, they pay for it. Okay. But afterwards, a very, very, very nice table for book distribution. And you don't preach at all. These guys are so arrogant, everything else. But they cannot pass by a beautiful book table. It's just like they got to look. And you pick out the literature, like we do Light of the Bhagavat. And when purport Prabhupada introduces basically Nectar of Instruction. And then we go right to teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So that's kind of like the way we've been doing it. So nice reception, and then nice prasadam. And then you can start to talk philosophy, Prabhupada says. It's kind of like the sequence. The urban monk, a devotee, Gadadhar, he's had tremendous experience, success, becoming a chaplain and stuff, And I think he goes to Bhagavad Gita before he goes to japa. Because japa is more of a commitment. There you got to go to dhyana. So once you're a little satisfied by Bhagavad Gita, okay, maybe I'll try chanting. But that's kind of my experience. Different kinds of people. For example, I was listening to all Prabhupada's lectures, and when Prabhupada was lecturing to universities, many times Indian students would come in the 1960s, and many times they were very aggressive. Oh, Swamiji, you're giving a bad impression of my India. My India is no longer superstitious, and so on. And Prabhupada would just get right into fights with them. It was incredible. He would just go back and forth, you know. And I was thinking, oh, Prabhupada, why are you so argumentative? And then I got, you know, different impressions from Prabhupada in my life. And he said, it's my nature. I like to fight. You know, you don't have to be that way. Okay. But Prabhupada liked to mix it up. And I can see I give my very logical, intellectual lecture and very peaceful, and people go away and forget it. After a few days, you forget everything. Okay. But these Indian students, I'm sure for the next 20 years, are thinking, oh, Swamiji. Like that, I would have said. And after 20 years, they're going, Swamiji was right. So Prabhupada's understanding his nature. Prabhupada said, I've always been very argumentative. So even when I was married, I was argumentative. But it's not my nature. I grew up different. But you see there, Prabhupada, he took that attitude towards his college students that was making them so angry at him, they would never forget him. You know, that's very expert to handle that kind of thing. So develop your own style, talk to different people, see what they're doing. And one nice formula again is nice reception, nice prasadam, and then the intellectual discussions. Okay?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for everything. Hare Krishna.
All right. The Institute Paramita. Instituta Paramita. You're moving. A television show. Gopinath Das, Sadhu Sangha Dasa. Oh my gosh, they made it. Last time we saw Sadhu and Mataji, they were in Boise, Idaho, taking off in their covered wagon, following behind their oxen, making their way to Houston, Texas. Okay. So I don't know. I now return control of our program to our sponsors. Winston Lynn.
Oh, I forgot to change my name. I apologize. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for such a joyous class with so many practical instructions. Thank you so much, Maharaj. It's a joy, as always. Hare Krishna.
Bye.
Thank you. If anybody has any questions or has any comments, please feel free to unmute and share before our announcements. You could put it in the chat, or please feel free to unmute if you have something that you would like to say.
I see Chandramukhi Devi Dasi in Peru. But from looking at her, I can tell it's cold in Peru.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for your Vani association.
Oh my gosh, it's Hari Das.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, we have so much to do on Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Shastra. I feel guilty if we haven't done anything, practically speaking. But anyway,
Yeah.
Everybody can go ahead without us. We'll see you in a few days. Yeah. Wow.
Yes. We shout it out when we will be here.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Keys phone, Kaylee.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for this class. It was wonderful. I was wondering if you could maybe speak on what the Shatakas are that you quote from sometimes.
This is Nadia Gajadar. Who's speaking?
Ali. Hare Krishna.
Who's talking?
Ali, right here for you.
Oh, okay. There you are. Okay, it's amazing. The internet thing. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
I was wondering if you could just elaborate what the Shatakas are that you sometimes quote from.
I quote who?
The Shataka. You have a quote, some verses on your website. Srataka 15, I think.
Oh, Shataka.
Shataka, right.
Yeah. Every day we say Jayom, Vishnupad, Paramahamsa, Parivajakacharya, Ashtotara Sata. Asta means 8, and Shata means 100. 100. So Astotra Shata means 108. You know, we say 108 times. You know, 108 A.C. Bhakti-Yoga Swami. So the Shatas. Let me see. Maybe I'll share the screen again here. Where are we here? Oh, can I share my screen? Yeah, there it is. Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay. And share. Okay, close the PowerPoint show. Escape. Try to close the PowerPoint show. Okay, Windows down, arrow, down. Then if we go to let's go to Anjana Suta Academy here. Somehow or other, it's not allowing me to move the toolbar here. How do I do that? Oh. Well, anyway.
Out in the top right, Maharaj, if you're looking for a PowerPoint, you would click the PowerPoint icon in the bottom of your screen and it should come up.
No, I'm looking for the web browser.
You click the plus button to the right of the Zoom on the Zoom tab. If you go over to the left, there's a plus. The plus button a little bit over, more to the right. There's a
right.
Plus right there, next to the X.
And not that, Maharaj. You know where it says attendance Zoom on the left side? On the very top left-hand corner? You need to start another browser. Click on the plus sign. Just move to the right a little. Move to the right.
Right above the word Zoom in the URL, there's a plus on the top of the screen.
Not on my screen.
Yeah, your screen. Yeah.
I have a Zoom here.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and you see the plus sign after the X?
That's on the other side here. That's, okay,
yeah, right there. You got it.
Okay, well, I haven't got it. Okay, but I'll do it. Okay. There we go. Okay, because what's happening is the toolbar is covering the top part of my screen. Made it show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, now I go to jayarama.us. Here's our webpage. Okay, and I manufactured this with Microsoft Word, which drives programmers nuts. Okay, Microsoft Word. So hello, who are we? News archives. You go to the archives. Okay, and it has something about it here. You describes the archives, the introduction, but you can go right into the archives. And now we're looking for Vrindavan Dham Mahimamrita. And this is what this is all from. It's a book by Prabodhananda Saraswati, and I think it's one of the very best books in the world. But of course, we're following Lalita, so maybe I'm deviating by introducing this book. But okay, Vrindavan Dham Mahimamrita. Okay, click on it, it'll download. I'll download it to my desktop. Okay. And there it is. And we open up, and there it is. Okay, that's what it is. And it's Shri Vrindavan Dham Mahimamrita, the Nectarian Glories of Vrindavan Dham by Prabodhananda Saraswati, translated by Krishna Kratadas. And so Prabodhananda Saraswati, who's on the far left, if you're looking at Krishna, Krishna's on the left and Radha's on the right as we look at them. So on Krishna's right side, our left side, the far extreme is Tunga Vidya, the peak of knowledge. And she's in a different humor than Lalita. We're following Lalita. So she incarnated as Prabodhananda Saraswati in Lord Chaitanya's Leela, and of course Prabhupada's quoting Prabodhananda Saraswati. So he wrote, we have 16 shatakas, and each one has 100 verses. And he says, meditating on the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Murli Manohar, placing myself at the dust of Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet, and respectfully offering obeisances to the great devotees of the Lord, who are so many oceans of transcendental virtue, I shall now happily begin to praise the transcendental opulences of Vrindavan. Of course, this is Kushakrata's translation. You should know about him. I am not strong enough to go to the far shore of the great nectar of ocean, nectar ocean of Vrindavan's glories. Who can go there? However, because I love Vrindavan, I will now dip into that ocean. I pray that this endeavor may become successful and bring an auspicious result. So it's very, very intense, very, very beautiful. And Krishna Karada's translations are, it's a draft. There are many mistakes in the exact details, but his feeling and everything else is so communicative. So that's what it is. It's available. It's on our web, our archives there. But again, Prabhupada's books are the basis. So, okay, yeah. Bye, Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for joining us as always. I would
come back again often.
Yes, please do. We would love to have you. I would just like to make some announcements. So as Maharaj was saying, the books are the basis. So at the Houston Temple, so just as we heard about the glories of the Srimad Bhagavatam, if you'd like to purchase a Srimad Bhagavatam for yourself or give it as a gift to a friend or a relative, there's no better time to do so than on September 20th, Bhadra Purnim. If you are interested, I put the number in the chat, so you can call that number. And then next Friday, we will be hearing from His Holiness Rampad Swami for the beginning session of his Japa retreat. So we will send out the time and link via email if you're on our email list, if not on our WhatsApp group. If you're not on it, you can join it by clicking that link. And tonight's recording can be found at our YouTube channel, which I've also put in the chat, and I'm about to put in the chat the Krishna House that is also now at the Houston Temple. So if you are looking, or you know somebody that's looking for a unique ashram opportunity for spiritually minded men and women, or if you are interested or know someone who may be interested, please get in touch with Sadhu Sangha Das at the phone number in the chat. And then last but not least, we have the Bhakti Urban Farm Program. Laura, are you available to unmute and share some from the farm?
Yes, I'm here. Hare Krishna. Laura here from Bhakti Urban Farm. Unfortunately, the farm will be closed this next coming weekend. We will not be having the cow feeding or yoga or other events due to unforeseen circumstances. Please follow us in our WhatsApp group, or you can follow us bhaktiurbanfarm.org. Hopefully, we'll be open next Sunday. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Laura. Thank you, everybody, for joining us so much. It was so wonderful to spend this time with you. And please join our WhatsApp group and join us each week. Again, thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Can we, everybody, please unmute and give Maharaj a big Hari Bol?
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Where'd it go?
Recording stopped.
Hi, Aja. It's a gopi.
Hey, Aja.
You're famous, Aja. What? Everyone's saying hi to you. Adi, come here.
Oh, Kama Gayatri, Hare Krishna.
Hi, Hare Krishna, Bhakti Jason. We miss you.
Oh, Sudevi, Hare Krishna.
I think Sugopi's on here, Adi. So you remember? You remember me? Yeah. We got a friend Sugopi's picture. There she is. Say hi. Hi. Remember your older sister, Sugopi? She lived across the street.
Your hair grew so long now.
Sita, come say hi. What are you doing? No. What are you doing? Come here. Oh, can you take that from her? Come here. Come say hi.
Hi, Sita.
Sugopi. And let's see, we have to go back to Sugopi. Where'd she go? Where'd she go?
Spotlight.
Yes, right. You used to go. Where did you go?
My spotlight.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Here.
I'm
Sita, come here.
spotlighted, like,
Sita. Sita, come here and see Sugopi. Sita. Okay, we're making a bunch of
I
noise.
do not remember so much.
I wanted to say hi to
Sure, yeah.
Chandramukhi. Mataji, are you the Mataji that just got married? No, maybe. Guru Maharaj was saying something about one Mataji on Balaram Praneem that got married. It looks like your picture, Winston Lin, but it may not be you. Okay, never. No, okay. I wanted to say hi to Chandramukhi, but I think she left.
It's so nice that everybody's seeing each other and getting in contact this way after the show. It's so nice, so sweet.
Yeah, it is sweet, especially because Jason was here. Sudevi was here just recently. Jason was here just for a small trip. Sugopi was here. And so it's a way for all of us to stay in contact through the mercy of the spiritual master. Bye.
Where are you located?
Say it again. Oh, sorry, we have a bunch of baby kids.
Winston Lin?
No, sorry. My name is Sri Rupa. I account. Sorry.
Are you in Houston?
No, I'm in New York actually.
Okay, I was wondering. I'm like, oh, maybe you're in Houston. No.
It'd be nice if I was in Houston. I wish, but I'm not. I'm in New York. You're all in.
No, well, some of us are in Boise, it looks like, and some are in Houston. Yeah, we have a friend who was just in Boise too, that moved to New York, Jessica.
Oh, how nice. Does she go to the Bhakti Center?
Yes.
I'll have to look for her when things start to fully open up.
Yeah.
Does she live in the city?
I think so. Yep. I think she lives near Bhakti Center.
Oh,
Well,
nice.
she just moved back, but yeah.
I'll have to look for her.
Yeah, Jessica, she's super nice.
Okay, I'll tell her that I met you. Haribol, it was so nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thanks for hosting this wonderful class.
Thank you for coming on. Hopefully, I'll see you all again soon.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a question, Mataji. Is there any way I can give you my email in the chat so you can send me the recording? Because my son had his first night of school tonight. And so it was an open house and I was so sad I couldn't, I missed the first part.
I'll put the YouTube channel in the chat, and as soon as it's done processing, about Sunday night, there's a devotee that just tweaks it a little bit, and then he uploads.
Great.
And you can see all of Maharaj's past classes there as well.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Okay, I've got it. I'll put it right now in a browser. Thank you so much. This is great. Or I'll actually just save it onto a note. I'm excited. So Sunday it should be uploaded.
Yeah, tonight's class should be uploaded by Sunday. If it's not, I will contact the person who does that service. And if not, I'll put my email address, and you can always email me, and then I can send it to you directly if you need it soon.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Haribol, everybody.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.